Deirdre O'Connell, the Penguin. You're watching IndieWire.
Congratulations. I'm curious, how much of a Batman or comic book fan did you consider yourself before you took on this role?
Not that much. I'm sad to say. It's just not sort of my thing. I do like a mobster. So the fact that this was living right in the world between a mob movie and a Batman comic book world. I mean, as a kid, I grew up with comic books. So it's not like it was an unknown thing to me, but I've never been obsessed with watching comic book movies. So I was, I came into it with a certain really? I'm doing this? But I loved our script so much and I loved, of course, the Batman. I loved that film. I mean, it's just an incredible piece of work. And I loved what Colin did in it. So I immediately was like, I want to know that guy. I want to know that guy Oz. But yeah, I was not, I'm a convert. I'm a recent convert. Let's put it that way.
Well, I think a lot of viewers are converts too. And the phrase superhero fatigue gets thrown around a lot these days, but this show felt so fresh and resonated with such a new audience. Why do you think this show in particular stands out when audiences are getting tired of superhero movies as a whole sometimes?
I think it's the lived-in real feel of it. When we were shooting it, it felt that way, and I thought, is this going to translate? It felt like there was a whole other kind of movie getting made underneath the movie that was the operatic comic book movie, which also is very satisfying on that level. But then there's this other thing that's underneath that feels very, I don't know how else to put it, organic, like it was really happening. And like you could imagine it happening in our real world where we live, even though people's behavior is pretty extreme. But, that's the way the world is. So, yeah, and it was also the nature of the writing, I think, had so much to do with the women, has so much to do with the story of the women. The women's story is really the soup in which the whole drama lives, and he's like, he's like the icon, but the story really cooks in the soup of ladies.
And you had a strike right in the middle of your production process. How did that affect your creative process, and what was it like getting back into this intense project after a break?
It was terrifying. I was so scared, and then I thought I was the only one. I felt so scared, literally scared, literally having anxiety attacks, and my heart was racing, thinking about coming back to it. Partly because I knew what we were coming back to, because I knew how intense it had been to shoot the first three months. But also because a lot of the really hard, dark stuff for Francis was coming up, And so I would say once we got back to work with the very first day, I realized, okay, we're back in that sweet spot that was so happy. And so there's a kind of glee to shooting this because it was so extreme, because we were having to, use our pitching arms with such intensity. So I was scared to come back because I wasn't sure I had the muscle for it anymore, and I wasn't sure we would find each other and be able to trust each other the way we had found. It's a very delicate process, So I wasn't sure we would land, and we did. Thank God we did. I mean, there were there was a lot of goodwill. There was a lot of goodwill as we came back and saw, oh man, our whole crew is back. Oh man, looked right in each other's eyes and we're like, okay, we have this. But we were all, I think, really scared, really free-floating anxiety. It's a hard world to think about going back to. I think the homework of it, thinking about the disease, thinking about the amount of death and mayhem, I was dreading that to have to dive back into that. But once you're back in it, you feel like, oh, okay, there's a real pleasure to be had working on this.
And the show takes so many incredible turns over the course of the season. Do you have a moment or an episode that you are the most proud of?
Oh, man, that's a hard question. I love the scene with Sophia. I love the Francis Sophia twist. I love the fact that just as Francis is becoming the most fragile and losing the most power in the world, when she gets challenged by that little girl, she just comes up, defends her son. I loved shooting that scene. We shot that scene way out of sequence for some reason. The way the schedule worked, we skipped 2 episodes, and all of a sudden we were shooting that scene the next day. So both me and Christian were like, we're shooting that scene that's in episode 7 and we're still on episode 3 tomorrow. So we were really shot out of a cannon. poor Kevin Bray hadn't even started working yet, and so he had to come in and start directing it. So it was very like wham, and I got there was a real pleasure in shooting that scene. I think it's partly just because it was the two ladies finally like seeing each other. Yeah, the essence of the war.